Section 3 of Advice to Young Men and Boys. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Advice to Young Men and Boys by Benjamin Comegys. On the death of William Welsh, first President of the Board of City Trusts, February 22nd, 1878. When I spoke to you last from this desk, I tried to persuade you to adopt the thought so aptly set forth by one of the old Hebrew kings. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. I little thought then that Mr. Welsh, who was one of the most conspicuous examples of working with all his might, and so much of whose work was done for you, whom you so often saw standing where I now stand, I little thought that his work on earth was so nearly done. Last Sunday he addressed you here. 1, 2, 3 services he conducted for the boys of this college, 1 in the infirmary, 1 in the refectory for the new boys, and 1 in this chapel. I venture to say from my knowledge of his method of doing things that these services were all conducted in the best manner possible to him, that he did not spare his strength, that there was nothing weak or undecided in his acts or speech, but that he took hold of his subject with a firm grasp, and did not let go until the service was finished. It is very natural that we should desire to know as much as we can about a life that has come so close to us as the life of Mr. Welsh, and to learn, if we may, what it was that made him the man that he was. The thousands of people that gathered in and about St. Luke's Church on the day of the funeral, as many of you saw, the very large number of citizens of the highest distinction who united in the solemn services, the profound interest manifested everywhere among all classes of society, the closing of places of business at the hour of these services, the flags at half-mast, all these circumstances, so unusual, so impressive, assured us that no common man had gone from among us. What was it that made him no common man? What was there in his life and character that lifted him above the ordinarily successful merchant? In other places, and by those most competent to speak, will the complete picture of his life be drawn, but what was there in his life which particularly interests you college boys? I will surprise you probably when I tell you that his early education, the education of the schools, was very limited. He was not a college-bred man. At a very early age, as early as 14, I believe, he left school and went into his father's store. You know that he could not have had much education at that age, and he went into the store, not to be a gentleman's clerk, to sit in the counting-house and copy letters and invoices, and do the bank business and lounge about in fine clothing, but he went to do anything that came to hand, rough and smooth, hard and easy, dirty and clean. For in those days the duties of a junior clerk differed from those of a porter only in this, that the young clerk's work was not so heavy as the robust porter's. And even when he grew older and stronger, he would go down into the hold of a vessel and vie with the strong stevedore in the shifting and placing of cargoes. And the days were long then. There were no office hours from 9 to 3 o'clock, but merchants and their clerks dined near the middle of the day, and were back at their stores, their warehouses, in the afternoon, and stayed and worked until the day was done. So this young clerk worked all day, and went home at night, tired and hungry, to rest, to sleep, and to go through the next day and the next in the same manner. But not only to rest and sleep. The body was tired enough with the long day's work, but the mind was not tired. He early knew the importance of mental discipline, of mental cultivation. He knew that a half-educated man is no match for one thoroughly equipped, and so he set himself to the task of making up, as far as he could, for that deficiency of systematic education which his early withdrawal from school made him regret so much. What definite means or methods he resorted to accomplish this I cannot tell you, for I have not learned, but the fact that he did very largely overcome this most serious disadvantage is apparent to all who have ever met him. He was a cultivated gentleman, thoroughly at ease in circles where men must be well informed or be very uncomfortable. As the president of this board of trustees, having for his associates gentlemen of the highest professional and general culture, he was quite equal to any exigency which ever arose. All this, you must know, was the result of education, not that which was imparted to him in the schools, but that which he acquired himself after his school life. He was careful about his associates. Then, as now, the streets were alive with boys and young men of more than questionable character. And the thought which has come up in many a boy's mind after his day's work was done must have come up in his mind, why should I not stroll about the streets with companions of my own age and have a good time? Why should I be so strict while others have more freedom and enjoy themselves so much more? I have no doubt that he had his enjoyments, and that he was a free, hearty boy in them all, but I cannot suppose, for his afterlife gave no evidence of it. His general good health, his muscular wiry frame forbade the thought. I cannot suppose his youthful pleasures passed beyond that line which separates the good from the bad, the pure from the impure. Few evils are so great as that of evil companions. William Welsh was not afraid of work. I mean by that he was not lazy. A large part of the failures in life are attributable to the love of ease. We choose the soft things, we turn away from those which are hard. We are deterred by the abstruse, the obscure, we are attracted by the simple, the plain. A really strong character will grapple with any subject. A weak one shrink from a struggle. A character naturally weak may be developed by culture and discipline into one of real strength, but the process is very slow and very discouraging. A life that is worth anything at all, that impresses itself on other lives, on society, must have these struggles, this training. I do not know minutely the characteristics of Mr. Welsh's early life in this particular, but I infer most emphatically that his strong character was formed by continuous, laborious, exacting self-application. I would now speak of that quality which is so valuable, I will not say so rare, so conspicuously and so immeasurably important, personal integrity. Mr. Welsh possessed this in the highest degree. He was most emphatically an honest man. No thought of anything other than this could ever have entered into the mind of anyone who knew him. All men knew that public or private trusts committed to him were safe. Mistakes in judgment all are liable to, but of conscious deflection from the right path in this respect he was incapable. His high position as president of the Board of City Trusts, which includes, among other large properties, the great estate left by Mr. Girard to the city of Philadelphia, proves the confidence this community had in his personal character. His private fortune was used as if he were a trustee. He recognized the hand of God in his grand success as a merchant, and he felt himself accountable to God for a proper expenditure. If he enjoyed a generous mode of living for himself and his family, a manner of life required by his position in the community, he more than equalized it by his gifts to objects of benevolence. He was conscientious and liberal, rare combination, in his benefactions, for he felt that he held his personal property in trust. Such are a few of the traits in the character of the man whose life on earth was so suddenly closed on Monday last, under Providence, by which I mean the blessing of God, that blessing which is just as much within your reach as his. These are some of the conditions of his extraordinary success. His self-culture, the choice of his companions, his persistent industry, his integrity, his religion, made the man what he was. I cannot here speak of his work in that church, which he loved so much. I do not speak with absolute certainty, but I have reason to believe that next to his own family, his affections were placed on you. He could never look into your faces without having his feelings stirred to their profoundest depths. He loved you, in the best, the truest sense he loved you. He was willing to give you any amount of his time, his thought, his care to you. The time he spent in the chapel was a very small part of the time he gave to his work for you. You were upon his heart constantly. I do not know, no one can know, but if it be possible for the spirits of just men made perfect to revisit these scenes of earth, to come back and look upon those they loved so much when in the flesh, I am sure his spirit is here today, this his first Sabbath in heaven, looking into your faces, as he often did when he went in and out among you, and wishing that all of you may make such use of your grand opportunity here as will ensure your success in the life which is before you when you leave these college walls, and especially as will ensure your entering into the everlasting life. Such was his life, full of activity, generosity, self-denial, eminently religious, in the best sense successful. He was never at rest. His heart was always open to human sympathy. He denied nothing except to himself. He wanted everybody to be religious. He died in the harness. No time to take it off, no wish to take it off. But in the front, on the advance, not in retreat. He never turned his back on anything that was right. His eye was not dim, his natural force was not abated. Death came so swiftly that it seemed only stepping from one room in his father's house to another. We are reminded of the beautiful words in which Mr. Thackeray describes the death of Colonel Newcome in the hospital of the Charterhouse School after a life spent in fighting the enemies of his country abroad and the enemies of the good in society at home. Quote, "At the usual evening hour the chapel bell began to toll, and Thomas Newcome's hands, outside the bed, feebly beat time, and just as the last bell struck, a peculiar sweet smile shone over his face. He lifted up his head a little and said quickly, 'Adsum,' and fell back. It was the word they used at school when names were called, and lo, he whose heart was that of a little child had answered to his name, and stood in the presence of the master." End of section 3.